So, what are best practices in care and cleaning of percussion instruments during the pandemic or in general going forward after learning what we have due to COVID-19? My big three EPA-approved disinfectants are alcohol wipes, Formula 409, or diluted bleach, but these may not be safe for all instruments or for your skin. So I also like to have disposable gloves on hand. Now, it's important to be able to explain proper cleaning techniques to anyone participating in interactive drumming activities. A good place to start is simply encouraging participants to clean the instruments before and after using them, but for the safety of participants and ourselves, the facilitator should also make certain that the instruments are clean before packing up. But you need to choose your instruments carefully. All percussion instruments take special care. So let's look at instruments that might be used during interactive drumming. What gets touched the most? First thought are drum heads and mallets, or sticks, but anything that's held for a period of time needs to be cleaned before use by others. We should include, drum bodies if they're touched, the wooden insides of frame drums, rhythm sticks, and any shakers. So the common maraca are a good example to start with. I have three examples of maraca here to look at. I've got the plastic one, a painted wood one, and a lacquered wood one. And this will help us look at two things. The first thing is simply cleaning them, but also recognizing that they can't all be cleaned the same way. The plastic maracas are the easiest to clean. We simply use alcohol wipes or multi-surface disinfectant, making sure that we clean the entire maraca. Now, notice what I did in the beginning. I grabbed it and I touched it all over. So when a participant gets it, they may touch it all over too. So it's a good idea to either use one disinfectant wipe or a rubber glove, and use one to hold the maraca and the other to wipe the entire surface clean, to keep from touching it barehanded. Now remember, for every single instrument, when you return it to its shelf or a container, use the hand wearing the disposable glove or holding the wipe to return it. Okay, if you or someone else touch anything with a bare hand, you risk contaminating it or recontaminating it. It's also part of the reason we need to go back and clean everything after someone else uses the instruments. So let's look at the two types of wooden maracas. Okay, here we need to consider that they are wood, but they also have different finishes. The lacquered woods can usually be cleaned with the alcohol-based disinfectants or 409, but don't use hospital-grade disinfectants on any wood, and I'll come back to this again. The painted maracas, like any painted instruments, are a completely different story when cleaning. You can clean them with alcohol wipes, but it'll take off the paint. I don't know if you can see it, but just now with this alcohol wipe, it took off the red paint. If I did this by mistake once, it'll take off the green too. But I cleaned one of the maracas, I looked down at my wipe and I saw the red and I thought, oh no, I'm bleeding, what did I do? So I really don't know a way to avoid messing up the finish and properly disinfecting the wood. So if you don't want to mess up painted or colored surfaces, just don't use them. There may be other instruments that should be limited in use. I really don't want to leave anything in the studio, but it just might be necessary right now. And let's think about kasisi, egg shakers. There are other instruments that can absorb or draw in liquids. That can damage the insides, it can damage beads or shells. So do wipe those instruments with alcohol, but then dry them with a cotton cloth immediately and never submerge them in any disinfectant. The reason I say cotton cloth is because that's going to absorb the liquid the best. You don't have to really think about it. It's a cotton cloth. You're going to be safe with it. Now, mallets are another mixed bag, and I'm just going to call them hard-tipped mallets or plastic mallets and soft mallets with cloth, felt, or leather heads. So the sticks on the mallets, as on drumsticks, can be cleaned with alcohol and most other disinfectants. The wood and plastic here are fine to disinfect too, but some drums require the use of cloth or leather mallets, and the heads on these may be wiped with alcohol, but over wiping them can destroy the fibers on the heads. So it may be a good idea to soak them after being handled. Even with the leather mallets, this can mess up the small fibers that are on there and rip up the heads on the felt. So if you want to soak them, this can be done with isopropyl alcohol or a detergent like Dawn in really hot, almost boiling water. Then afterwards, sit them out and allow the heads to dry completely. If you don't have enough time to clean them properly every day, then make sure you have enough mallets to switch out for each individual to use, then clean them all on off days. Now, drum thrones, obviously they can be cleaned with diluted bleach or a multi-surface disinfectant. Cymbals, gongs, and chimes can be cleaned with disinfecting wipes, but make sure you follow immediately again with a dry hand towel, cotton cloth, to get any residue off so you don't damage any coatings or treatments. If you can't dry them ASAP, then here's another place you might not want to use them. It might not, most people know it, but it might not look like the cymbal or chime has a finish, but it might, so be careful, just don't guess. And it would be best to treat all metal instruments such as bells or xylophones, finger cymbals, and triangles the same way we treat cymbals, gongs, and chimes, but pay attention to any colored metal and don't oversaturate the colored areas, or you may wipe off the color when you wipe off the excess disinfectant. Now, Remo has made most of their drums cleanable with alcohol wipes, bleach, or store-bought disinfectants. This can be done on the heads and the bodies alike. Natural wood bodies can be cleaned with alcohol wipes or disinfectants. I like to clean natural wood with alcohol or bleach, but also weekly use wood oil or pledge to help keep the wood hydrated and safe from cracking. And I also like the lemony fresh smell. So note that only Remo's Green and Clean series withstands repeated use of harsh hospital grade disinfectants, so be careful. I don't have any here, but right now the Green and Clean series instruments are black and green with black heads, but this could change, so make sure you're using the right instruments in a hospital or elder care setting that requires hospital grade cleaners. Natural skin heads and gut finished instruments can be cleaned with alcohol or bleach, but because these are natural skin, another step absolutely must be followed. So first, let's consider living skin. Ethyl alcohol is more dehydrating than living skin, and the CDC states that it should only be used on non-porous surfaces unless it's been modified for cosmetic use. Surprisingly, most baby wipes contain both ethyl and isopropyl alcohol, but not enough to kill the coronavirus. So think about that if you have kids, but think about that if you're considering using it on your drums. Obviously, isopropyl alcohol is more commonly used for disinfectants. It evaporates quickly, it doesn't dry out our skin like ethyl alcohol, and it's safer to use on porous surfaces. But here's why we need to take an extra step with natural skin drums and percussion instruments. We wash our hands, and our hands slough off dead cells and can regenerate. Natural skins used on drums do not regenerate when damaged. They can crack and split when dehydrated by repeated cleaning with any products that are drying, just like keeping them in a hot car or someplace super warm. So some commercial drums are treated to aid with this, while natural drums from West Africa, Peru, or Southeast Asia probably aren't treated. You really won't know unless you bought them, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So here's the natural skin protocol in all cases. First, clean the body and the head with alcohol But then once a week, the heads need to be rehydrated with a natural non-chemical conditioner. Some djembe players suggest palm oil or coconut oils, so I go with that first, while there are many conditioners created for natural skin bowrin and for frame drums that can be used on any skin or gut heads. Now, in any case, this is a weekly protocol. We don't want to over-condition skin drum heads because this can also damage them or at least change the timbre. We don't want to put a big glob of conditioner on the drums. So the safest and most recommended dose is really a fingertip or two. And then that's actually too much, so I'm just using one finger. And this is, over 12-inch head. So rub it in gently, but thoroughly. Try to get the whole head. And then this is a grain that's running towards me. And like on this dunu or any other drum that still has a little hair or texture left on it, rub the conditioner in the direction of the hair or the skin grain. Now, let's see. For gut drums like this buffalo drum or the gut handles in the back, I've still got some on my fingers. My fingers are still pretty shiny. So just run a little along the gut. But again, don't overcoat the skin or gut like you're polishing a car or greasing something. Just lightly cover it. So one thing I did during a group session where all the new participants were playing a tongue drum for the first time is I used a cleaning wipe to hold the mallets. It's holding just the heads like that. And, I made sure they were clean. And I held the tongue drum in one arm and allowed each individual to get their own mallet. That way my hand didn't come in contact with it. And then just like a pen used in a doctor's office, the students were able to hold onto their mallet and turn it in for cleaning at the end of the session. And everyone was able to play the tongue drum without touching the sides of the body or anything else. So finally, white vinegar cannot kill the coronavirus. There's a list of over 500 disinfectants on the EPA website, listed as COVID-19 disinfectants. But for best practices, follow these guidelines and you should be able to protect your participants, your instruments, and yourself. Thanks a lot.